The earth shouldn't breathe. Arya pressed her palm flat against the ground beneath the Luna's prize roses and felt it again. A rhythm, deep and desperate. Not the tremor of shifting tectonic plates, but something alive, something dying. She'd been a palace gardener for 3 years, invisible as the mulch she spread. Omegas like her didn't matter much in the Blood Moon Pack, especially ones without family or rank. The work was hard, the pay poor, but it kept her fed and far from the mating games that had destroyed her mother. The roses didn't care that she was nothing. They bloomed for her anyway. But today, they seemed to lean away from the western corner of the garden, as if even flowers knew some ground was cursed. Arya stood, brushing dirt from her worn canvas pants. The sun was setting, painting the palace walls gold. And she should have been heading back to the Omega quarters. Instead, she found herself walking toward that western corner where the earth pulsed like a wound. That's when she heard it, a scream, muffled and raw, human-shaped, but animal in its desperation. Her wolf surged forward, every instinct screaming danger. But Arya was already on her knees, clawing at the loose soil with her bare hands. The earth came away easily, too easily. This had been dug recently, filled in haste. "Hold on," she whispered, though she didn't know who she was talking to or why she cared. 3 feet down, her fingers hit fabric, then flesh, cold as winter stone. She dug faster, uncovering a face she recognized from the portraits hanging in the palace halls. Prince Daemon, the Alpha King's eldest son, the heir to the Blood Moon throne, and he was buried alive. His eyes cracked open, glazed with pain and poison. Wolfsbane, she could smell it even through the dirt, that sickly sweet scent that turned a shifter's blood to acid. His lips moved, but no sound came out. "I've got you," Arya said, hooking her arms under his and pulling. He was dead weight, his wolf too poisoned to help. She dragged him onto the grass, checking his pulse, faint, irregular, failing. She needed help. The palace healers, the king. But before she could even stand, she heard the footsteps. Luna Celeste emerged from between the rose bushes like a ghost in silk. The Alpha King's wife, the palace's perfect queen, with her ice-blonde hair and practiced smile. She wasn't smiling now. Behind her, 4 guards materialized, hands on their weapons. "Well," the Luna said softly, "this is unfortunate." Arya's heart stopped. She looked down at Daemon, then back at Celeste. Understanding came slowly, then all at once. The Luna had done this. "I can explain," Arya started, though she had no idea what explanation would save her. "Can you?" Celeste tilted her head, studying Arya the way someone might study a bug before crushing it. "You've discovered something you shouldn't have. That makes you a problem." "I won't tell anyone. I swear on my wolf." "Your wolf?" Celeste laughed, cold as creek water in January. "You're an Omega girl. Your wolf barely exists. Your oath means nothing." One of the guards stepped forward, drawing his blade. Arya's mind raced. She was going to die here, in this garden, for the crime of having a conscience. Her body would probably end up in the same hole as Daemon's. "Wait." Celeste raised a hand. The guard froze. "Actually, I have a better idea." She crouched down beside Daemon, brushing dirt from his face with false tenderness. "My stepson here was supposed to die quietly, but he's always been resilient, stubborn, like his father." She looked up at Arya. "He needs to stay buried until the poison finishes its work, and you're going to help me." "I won't." "You will." Celeste's eyes flashed gold, her alpha power rolling out like a physical force. Arya's wolf whimpered and cowered. "Because if you don't, I'll make sure everyone you've ever spoken to in this palace dies screaming. The other gardeners, the kitchen Omegas, that old woman who gives you extra bread on Sundays." She smiled. "I'll start with her, I think. Make you watch." Arya's hands trembled. "Why are you doing this?" "Because the king is dying, and when he's gone, The pack will need strong leadership. Not this idealistic fool who thinks omegas deserve rights and borders should be opened to rogues. Celeste stood, brushing off her dress. My son will make a much better alpha. Young enough to mould, smart enough to listen to his mother. The pack won't accept it. Damon is the rightful heir. Damon disappeared on a hunting trip. Tragic accident. We'll find his body in a ravine in a few weeks after the scavengers have done their work. Celeste gestured to the hole. Now, put him back. Gently. We want him comfortable for his last hours. Arya looked down at Damon. His eyes were open now, locked on hers. He couldn't speak, couldn't move, but she saw the plea in them, the desperation, the rage. She had two choices: comply and live with the guilt, or refuse and condemn innocent people to death for her principles. Some choices weren't really choices at all. She bent down, sliding her arms under Damon again. His body was getting colder. The poison was winning. I'm sorry, she whispered. His fingers twitched, brushing against her wrist. For a moment she thought it was a spasm, but then she felt it. He was trying to grip her hand, trying to hold on. She lowered him into the grave as gently as she could, her throat tight with unshed tears. The guards watched, impassive as statues. Celeste hummed softly, a lullaby twisted into a funeral dirge. As Arya began shoveling dirt back over Damon's body, his lips moved again. This time she heard it, barely a breath, but enough. The baby, she froze, dirt cascading from her hands. Save my baby. Celeste didn't seem to hear. She was already walking away, heels clicking on the stone path, guards falling into step behind her. Finish covering him, she called over her shoulder, and clean up the roses. The king's sister is visiting tomorrow. Everything must look perfect. Arya stared down at Damon's face, now half covered in earth. His eyes were closing, consciousness fading, but his message echoed in her mind. The baby. Somewhere in this palace of lies and poison, there was a child, Damon's child, and Arya was the only one who knew. Chapter 2. Arya woke to the sound of a heartbeat that wasn't her own. It was slower than it should be, irregular as distant thunder, but unmistakable. She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling her own pulse racing beneath her ribs, then realized the second rhythm was coming from somewhere else, somewhere west. From 6 feet under the rose garden. 3 days had passed since she'd buried Prince Damon alive. 3 days of pretending to mourn with the rest of the palace staff. 3 days of watching Luna Celeste play the grieving stepmother with an actress's precision. The official story was simple and tragic. Prince Damon had gone on a hunting expedition to the Northern Territories. His horse had returned riderless, blood on the saddle. Search parties found tracks leading to a ravine. They'd recovered his torn jacket, his signet ring, evidence of a bear attack. No body yet, but everyone knew what that meant. The palace had draped itself in black. The king had aged a decade overnight, and Arya couldn't stop hearing Damon's heartbeat, growing fainter with each passing hour. She threw off her thin blanket and sat up in the darkness of the Omega quarters. Around her, a dozen other women slept in their narrow cots, their breathing soft and even. They'd all cried at the news of the prince's death. Some of them had even met him. He'd been known for his kindness, his visits to the lower ranks, his genuine interest in making the pack better for everyone. Unlike his brother Marcus, who looked at Omegas the way someone might look at furniture. Arya's hands trembled as she reached for her work clothes. The funeral was today. She had to attend. All palace staff were required to pay their respects. The irony burned like acid in her throat. She dressed quietly and slipped out into the pre-dawn darkness. The palace was already stirring, servants preparing for the memorial service. She should have been heading to the kitchens to help with the funeral arrangements, but her feet carried her west instead, toward the gardens, toward that heartbeat. The rose garden looked innocent in the grey light, perfectly maintained. She'd made sure of that, tending it obsessively these past 3 days. The western corner showed no signs of disturbance. She'd done her work well. She knelt beside the roses and pressed her palm to the earth. Thump, thump, thump. Still alive. Barely. How long can an alpha survive wolfsbane poisoning? She whispered to the dirt. Not much longer, her instincts answered. Even the strongest wolf had limits. Talking to yourself, Omega? Arya jerked upright, spinning around. A woman stood at the garden entrance, silhouetted against the rising sun. Not Luna Celeste. The build was wrong. The posture less regal. As the woman stepped closer, Arya recognized her. Lady Margot, one of the Luna's handmaids. Middle-aged, plain-faced, with tired eyes that had seen too much. I was just... Arya started. Checking on your work, Margot finished. I know, you've been very attentive to this garden lately. She moved closer, studying Arya with an intensity that made her wolf squirm. The Luna speaks highly of your discretion. It wasn't a compliment. It was a warning. I do my job, Arya said carefully. Yes, you do. Margot glanced at the western corner, then back at Arya. Something flickered in her expression. Pity, maybe. Or recognition. Come with me. The Luna wants to see you before the funeral. Arya's stomach dropped. Why? Does it matter? Margot turned and walked away, clearly expecting to be followed. It didn't matter. When the Luna summoned you, you went. They walked in silence through the palace corridors, past servants hanging black banners and priests preparing incense. The whole building smelled of grief and lies. Arya's hands clenched into fists, her nails biting into her palms. Save my baby. She'd spent 3 days trying to figure out what Damon had meant. She'd searched the palace records she could access, listened to gossip, asked careful questions. Nothing. No mention of a child, no rumours of pregnancy, no scandal. Wherever this baby was, the Luna had buried the secret deep. Margot led her to the Luna's private chambers, a place Arya had never been invited before. The rooms were beautiful in a cold way, all white marble and silver fixtures. Celeste sat at her vanity, already dressed in mourning black, a veil of lace draped over her golden hair. She looked like grief incarnate. Arya wanted to claw her eyes out. "Leave us," Celeste said to Margot without turning around. The handmaid bowed and retreated, closing the door behind her. The click of the lock sounded like a death sentence. "Come here," Celeste commanded. Arya approached slowly, watching the Luna's reflection in the mirror. Celeste was applying kohl to her eyes, making them look red-rimmed and puffy. The performance would be flawless. "Do you know what a binding curse is, Arya?" The question caught her off guard. "No, Luna. It's old magic, blood magic, very illegal, very effective." Celeste set down her makeup brush and finally turned to face Arya. 3 nights ago, while you slept, I had a witch place, one on you. It lives in your throat now, wrapped around your voice like a noose. Arya's hand flew to her neck. She felt nothing, but suddenly her throat felt tight, constricted. If you try to tell anyone what you saw in the garden, what you know about Damon, the curse will activate. Your windpipe will collapse, you'll suffocate slowly, painfully, and everyone will think it was a tragic accident. Another, Omega, dead before her time. Celeste smiled. "The binding also alerts me if you even attempt to write it down or signal it somehow, so don't get creative." Rage and terror warred in Arya's chest. "You can't—" "I already have." Celeste stood smoothing her dress. "You're mine now, little Omega. My secret, my burden, my insurance policy. And you'll stay quiet, because self-preservation is a powerful motivator." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to understand your place. You're alive because I allow it. You'll continue to live only as long as you're useful." Celeste circled her like a predator. "The funeral is today. Tomorrow the king will officially name Marcus as his heir. In a few weeks, we'll discover Damon's body and lay him to rest properly. Everything will proceed as planned. The pack won't accept it, Arya said, though her voice shook. Daemon was beloved. Daemon was weak. He wanted to change pack law, give Omegas voting rights, open our borders to rogues. He would have destroyed us. Celeste's eyes flashed gold. Marcus will be strong. He'll keep the old ways, maintain order, under my guidance, of course. Arya thought of Marcus, spoiled, cruel, everything his brother wasn't. The idea of him as Alpha King made her sick. Now go, Celeste said, dismissing her with a wave. Mourn prettily at the funeral. Tend your garden. Live your insignificant life. And remember, I'm always watching. The funeral was a spectacle of calculated grief. The king stood at the front of the great hall, looking ancient and broken. Beside him, Marcus wore mourning black and an expression of practiced sorrow. Luna Celeste dabbed at her eyes with a silk handkerchief, the perfect grieving mother. The whole pack had gathered, hundreds of wolves, all radiating genuine sadness. They'd loved Prince Daemon. They'd believed in him. And Arya stood among the Omega servants, listening to his heartbeat beneath the ground, growing weaker by the hour. She closed her eyes and focused on that rhythm, letting it guide her. Her gift, this strange ability to hear heartbeats from distances that should have been impossible, had always set her apart. Most Omegas had weak senses, dulled by their low rank. But Arya could hear the mouse in the walls, the bird in the rafters, Her eyes snapped open. There. Beneath all the other heartbeats in the hall, she caught it, small and fast, the rapid flutter of an infant's pulse. The baby. She turned slowly, scanning the crowd, following the sound. It was coming from the upper gallery, where the highest-ranking pack member sat. Her gaze swept over nobles and advisors until it landed on a woman she'd never noticed before. She was young, maybe 20, dressed in mourning black with a veil covering her face. But Arya could see enough. The way she held herself stiffly, the slight bulge beneath her dress, the protective curve of her arms. She was holding something. Someone. Arya's breath caught. The woman met her eyes across the crowded hall, and even through the veil, Arya saw the fear there. The warning. Then the woman stood abruptly and slipped out a side door, disappearing into the palace's maze of corridors. Arya barely heard the rest of the ceremony. Her mind raced, piecing together fragments. Daemon had a daughter. The mother was dead. The Luna had admitted as much. So who was this woman? A nurse? A guardian? As soon as the funeral ended, Arya broke away from the other servants and followed the path the woman had taken. The upper floors were unfamiliar territory, forbidden to Omegas, but she kept her head down and moved quickly. She found the woman in a small sitting room overlooking the gardens. Up close, without the veil, she was prettier than Arya had realized. Dark hair, olive skin, eyes red from actual crying. "You shouldn't be here," the woman said, her voice hoarse. "Neither should you, I'm guessing." Arya closed the door behind her. "I saw you. At the funeral. You have the baby." The woman's face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about. Please, I'm trying to help. Prince Daemon, before he—" Arya stopped herself. The binding curse tightened around her throat like a phantom hand. She couldn't say he was alive. "He told me about his daughter. I need to find her." The woman studied her for a long moment, then slowly reached into the folds of her dress. She pulled out a tiny bundle wrapped in soft wool. Arya's heart clenched. The baby was perfect, barely a month old, with a tuft of dark hair and her father's strong features. She slept peacefully, unaware that her entire world was built on lies and murder. "Her name is Elena," the woman whispered. "Daemon chose it, after his mother." "Who are you?" "I'm Vera. She swallowed hard. "I was Mira's best friend. Mira was Elena's mother. Was." Her voice cracked. "The Luna had her killed 2 weeks after the baby was born. Made it look like childbed fever. Arya's hands curled into fists. Why? Because Mira was nobody, a merchant's daughter from the Southern Territories. The Luna said she wasn't worthy to bear the next heir. She wanted Daemon to mate with someone of noble blood. Vera clutched Elena tighter. Daemon refused. He loved Mira. They'd secretly married, planned to announce it after the baby was born. But the Luna found out. So she killed the mother and tried to kill Daemon. Vera's eyes widened. How did you... I can't explain. The curse tightened again, a reminder. But I know the Luna wants Elena dead too, to clear the path for Marcus. I know. That's why I've been hiding her. Moving her between safe houses, keeping her secret. But it's only a matter of time before... Vera's voice broke. I don't know what to do. I promised Mira I'd protect her daughter, but I'm just a seamstress. I have no power. No... Neither do I, Arya admitted. But we'll figure something out. She reached out carefully, brushing her fingers over Elena's tiny hand. The baby's heartbeat was strong and steady, nothing like her father's failing rhythm. Can I tell you something? Vera asked quietly. Something nobody else knows? Arya nodded. The Luna, Celeste, she's not actually the king's wife. I mean, she is now. But that's not how it started. Vera glanced at the door, then lowered her voice even further. She was originally mated to the king's younger brother Theodore, Daemon's father. Arya's world tilted. What? Theodore was the heir, not the current king. But he died suddenly 20 years ago, poisoned, though it was ruled an accident. Celeste was pregnant with Daemon at the time. The king, grieving his brother and wanting to protect his nephew, married Celeste to give Daemon legitimacy. Vera's expression hardened. But that's not all. Marcus isn't the king's son. He's Theodore's too. Born from an affair Celeste had with him after she was already married to the king. Arya's mind reeled. So, Daemon and Marcus are actually half-brothers? No. Full brothers. Same father, same mother. Theodore got Celeste pregnant with Marcus before he died, but she hid it, pretended Marcus was the king's child born prematurely. Vera shook her head. The king has no biological children. His entire line depends on his brother's sons. And Celeste has been manipulating everything from the start. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the only person who's ever looked at me like I matter. You're the only one who cares about this baby. Vera's eyes shimmered with tears. And because I think you might be the only one who can stop the Luna before she destroys everything. Arya wanted to laugh at the absurdity. She was nobody. An Omega, with a curse around her throat and dirt under her fingernails. What could she possibly do against a woman who'd orchestrated murders and manipulated a kingdom? But then she looked down at Elena, innocent and perfect, and thought of Daemon dying slowly beneath the roses. I need to go, she said abruptly. Keep Elena hidden. I'll find a way to help, I promise. She left before Vera could respond, racing back through the palace corridors. Her mind churned with impossible plans and desperate ideas. She had to save Daemon. He was the rightful heir, the only one who could expose Celeste's lies. But the binding curse prevented her from telling anyone the truth. Unless... She burst into the rose garden, not caring who saw. The sun was setting, painting the sky blood red. She fell to her knees beside the western corner and pressed both palms to the earth. Thump, thump, thump. Slower than before. Weaker. I know you can hear me, she whispered fiercely. I found your daughter, Elena. She's safe for now, but you need to hold on. Do you understand? You need to survive. The heartbeat didn't change. Maybe he couldn't hear her. Maybe he was already too far gone. But Arya refused to believe it. She dug her fingers into the soil, feeling the earth that separated her from a dying prince, a murdered lineage, a kingdom built on blood and lies. And for the first time in her life, the Omega, nobody decided to become someone. Someone dangerous. Chapter 3. The note appeared on Arya's pillow like a curse. She found it after a 14-hour shift in the gardens, her hands blistered and her back aching. The Omega quarters were dark, most of the other women already asleep, but even in the dim light she could see the paper's unnatural colour. It wasn't ink, it was blood. The crypt. Midnight. Come alone or the princess dies at dawn. Arya's hands shook as she read it again, her wolf surging forward in alarm. Someone knew. Someone knew about Elena, about what she'd discovered, about... She crushed the note in her fist. Think, who could have sent this? Vera? No. She wouldn't threaten Elena. The Luna? But why the secrecy? Celeste could just kill them both outright. One of the Luna's guards? Or someone else entirely? She checked the small clock on the wall. 11:30. If she was going to make it to the crypt by midnight, she needed to leave now. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap. But the alternative, ignoring the message and risking Elena's life, wasn't an option. Arya changed quickly into dark clothing and slipped out through the servants' entrance. The palace grounds were massive, and the royal crypt sat at the far western edge, built into a hillside overlooking the forest. It would take her 20 minutes to reach it, moving fast. She ran. The night air was cold against her face, carrying the scent of pine and approaching winter. Above her the moon was 3/4 full, bright enough to see by but not yet calling to the wolf in her blood. The full moon was still days away, which meant the pack's strength was diminished, their shifts less powerful. Was that intentional? Had someone planned this for a night when wolves were weakest? The crypt loomed ahead, ancient stone covered in climbing ivy. The door stood open, a rectangle of deeper darkness. Arya's heart hammered against her ribs as she approached, every nerve screaming danger. She stepped inside. The crypt was larger than she'd expected, lined with stone coffins bearing the names of dead royals. Torches burned in iron sconces, casting dancing shadows across the walls. At the far end, beside the tomb of Queen Eleanor, Daemon's grandmother, stood a man. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair tied back and eyes that gleamed gold even in human form. He wore fighting leathers and had a sword strapped to his back. Everything about him radiated controlled violence. "You came?" he said. His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it properly in days. "I wasn't sure you would." "Who are you?" Arya demanded, though something in her recognized him. She'd seen this man before, always at Daemon's side during palace functions. The prince's shadow. Kai Thornwood, biter to Prince Daemon. He took a step forward and Arya instinctively stepped back. "Don't run. I'm not going to hurt you." "You threatened a baby." "I needed to get your attention, and I needed to know if you cared enough about Eleanor to risk yourself." His eyes narrowed. "You do, which means you know more than you should." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play games. I've been watching you for 4 days. Ever since the Luna summoned you to her chambers the morning before the funeral, ever since you started spending hours in the Western Rose Garden, kneeling in the dirt like you're praying." He moved closer, and this time Arya held her ground. "I know you were there, the night Daemon disappeared. You found something, didn't you?" The binding curse tightened around Arya's throat, cutting off her breath. She gasped, clutching at her neck. Kai was beside her in an instant, steadying her. "What's wrong? What's happening?" She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The curse was activating, punishing her for even considering telling the truth. Black spots danced across her vision. "Binding curse," Kai snarled. "God's damn it! She put a binding curse on you." He spun away, pacing like a caged wolf. Arya sucked in air as the curse loosened its grip. Her lungs burning, she doubled over, coughing. "I can't," she gasped. "Can't tell you." "I know. Blood magic. I should have realized." Kai ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "That's how she's keeping her secrets. Anyone who knows the truth is cursed into silence." "How do you—" Arya straightened slowly, still rubbing her throat. "How do you know about the Luna?" Because I've been investigating her for 6 months, ever since Mira died. His expression hardened. Damon asked me to look into it. He knew something was wrong. Knew the Luna had orchestrated Mira's death somehow. We found evidence, witnesses, inconsistencies in the official story. A healer who'd been paid to lie about the cause of death. But before we could act, Damon disappeared. And everyone thinks he's dead? Except I know my prince. We've been blood brothers since we were children. I'd feel it if he died. The bond would break. Kai's hand moved to his chest, to a spot over his heart. It's still there, faint but alive, which means Damon is alive too, somewhere. Arya's mind raced. She couldn't tell him about the rose garden, about burying Damon, about any of it. But maybe she could show him. Come with me, she said abruptly. Where? The rose garden, west corner. Just come and bring a shovel. Understanding flickered in Kai's eyes. He didn't ask questions, just grabbed a spade that had been leaning against the wall. He'd come prepared and followed her out of the crypt. They moved through the darkness like ghosts, two figures who shouldn't exist having a conversation they shouldn't have. When they reached the garden, Arya went straight to the western corner and pointed at the ground. Here. Kai stared at the earth, then at her. You're telling me— I'm not telling you anything, Arya interrupted. But if you dig there, you might find what you're looking for. He dropped to his knees and started digging. Arya kept watch, her heart in her throat. If anyone caught them, if the Luna found out. The shovel hit something solid. Kai dug faster, uncovering fabric, flesh, a face. Gods, he breathed. Damon. The prince looked like death. His skin was grey, his lips blue. But when Kai pressed his fingers to Damon's throat, checking for a pulse, Arya saw the moment he felt it. The moment hope sparked. He's alive. Barely, but— Kai looked up at her, and she saw something dangerous in his expression. Something that matched the rage building in her own chest. How long has he been down here? 4 days? 4 days of wolfsbane poisoning. Kai carefully brushed dirt from Damon's face. He should be dead. Would be dead if he wasn't Alpha-born. His bloodline is the only thing keeping him breathing. Can you save him? I can try, but we can't move him yet. Too many eyes, too much risk. If the Luna knows he's been discovered. Kai started covering Damon again, moving quickly. We need a plan. We need proof of what she's done. And we need to secure Elena before the Luna's assassins find her. You know where she is? I have an idea. There's an orphanage at the southern border run by a woman named Sister Margot, no relation to the Luna's handmaid. Damon donated to it regularly, anonymously. If I were hiding the heir to the throne, that's where I'd put her. He finished covering the grave, making it look untouched. But it's a 3-day journey by horse, and the Luna has spies everywhere. Arya thought of Vera, hiding Elena in plain sight at the palace. Should she tell Kai? Could she trust him? There's something you need to know, she said carefully. About me, about what I can do. Kai stood, brushing dirt from his hands. I'm listening. I can hear heartbeats. From distances that should be impossible. That's how I knew Damon was still alive, even buried. I could hear his heart. She took a breath. Earlier tonight I heard another heartbeat. A baby's. Here in the palace. Helena. Kai's eyes widened. She's not at the orphanage, she's here. A woman named Vera is hiding her, moving her between safe locations. But you're right, it's only a matter of time before the Luna finds her. Then we move her tonight. Get her somewhere truly safe. Where? The Luna controls the palace, the pack, everything. Not everything. A smile ghosted across Kai's face, sharp as a blade. The Shadowfen pack, to the east. Their alpha, Rowan, owes Damon a life debt. He'd shelter Elena, no questions asked. That's 4 days' travel, 3 if we push hard, and we have to try. Kai met her eyes. Will you help me? You barely know me, you have every reason not to trust me, but I'll help. The words came without hesitation. But I need to understand something first. You said you've been investigating the Luna for 6 months. What exactly did you find? Kai glanced around the garden, checking for listeners, then spoke quietly. Celeste isn't who she claims to be. Her real name is Celeste Thornwood. My cousin, actually, though I only discovered that recently. She was born in the Eastern Territories, daughter of a disgraced alpha who lost his pack in a territory war. So she married up, Arya said. That's not unusual. It is when you consider the timing. She was mated to Theodore, the king's brother, 21 years ago. Theodore was heir to the Blood Moon throne. Powerful, popular, everything a future alpha king should be. 6 months after their mating, he died. Poisoned. The Luna killed her own mate? I think so. Theodore's death left the throne to his younger brother, the current king, who was weak, easily manipulated. Celeste married him, claiming it was for Daemon's sake, to give her son legitimacy. But I think she always planned it. Kill the strong brother, marry the weak one, control the throne from the shadows. Arya thought of what Vera had told her, that Marcus was Theodore's son too, conceived in an affair. What about Marcus? That's the interesting part. Officially, Marcus is the king's son, born 2 years after Celeste's second marriage. But the timing has always been suspicious. I think Marcus is Theodore's child too. I think Celeste was pregnant when Theodore died, hid it, then pretended Marcus was born prematurely to the king. So Daemon and Marcus are full brothers, not half. Exactly, both Theodore's sons, both potential heirs. But Celeste favours Marcus because she's raised him to be her puppet, while Daemon inherited his father's independence and idealism. Kai's jaw tightened. When Daemon fell in love with Mira, refused to marry the noble woman Celeste had chosen, refused to follow her political plans, that's when he became a threat. So she killed Mira and tried to kill Daemon. And now she's hunting Elena, the true heir, Daemon's legitimate daughter, born of a love match. Kai looked at Arya intently. You said you can hear heartbeats. Is that all you can do? I don't know. No one ever told me this ability had a name. It does. You're a soul listener. An ancient bloodline, thought extinct. He stepped closer, studying her face like he was seeing her for the first time. Soul listeners can hear the essence of life itself. Heartbeats, blood connections, mate bonds. They were prized as advisors and healers, able to verify bloodlines and detect lies. Your gift is incredibly rare. I'm not gifted. I'm an Omega. We're supposed to be weak, disposable. Kai's expression softened. That's what the pack tells you, but Omega doesn't mean powerless. It never did. The ranking system is political, not biological. And you, Arya, you're far more powerful than you realize. His words settled over her like a cloak, heavy and warm. She'd spent her whole life believing she was nothing, nobody. The idea that her ability, this strange thing she'd always hidden, was actually valuable seemed impossible. Can you use your gift to verify Elena? Kai asked. If we bring her to you, can you hear whether she's truly Daemon's daughter? I think so. Blood connections have a resonance, heartbeats that harmonize when family is near. Arya focused inward, listening to the faint rhythm still pulsing from beneath the earth. Daemon's heartbeat is unique. If Elena shares his blood, her heartbeat will echo his. Then that's our first step. We find Elena, verify her identity, and get her to Shadowfen before... Arya gasped, cutting him off. Her hand flew to her chest. There. Beneath her own heartbeat, she heard it. Another rhythm, perfectly synchronized with hers. Not Daemon's failing pulse or Elena's infant flutter. This was something else entirely. Strong, steady, matched to her own like a mirror. What's wrong? Kai was at her side instantly, hand on her arm. Arya, what do you hear? The moment he touched her, the heartbeat grew louder, more insistent. And suddenly she understood. No, she whispered. That's not possible. What's not possible? She looked up at him, at this fierce beta warrior who'd appeared in her life like a storm, and saw her own shock reflected in his eyes. He felt it too. The pull, the recognition. Mate bond, Kai breathed. You're hearing a mate bond. But I can't. Omegas don't have mates. We're not. The words tangled in her throat. Everything she'd been taught, everything she'd believed about her place in the world, was crumbling. Someone lied to you. Kai's hand moved from her arm to her face, cupping her cheek with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with his warrior's build. Omegas have mates. They always have. The pack just convinced you otherwise, to keep you controllable. The heartbeat between them thundered, impossibly loud. Arya felt her wolf rising, recognizing something fundamental, but she shoved it down, forced herself to step back. No, I can't. This isn't. She wrapped her arms around herself. I don't even know you. This has to be a mistake. The mate bond doesn't make mistakes. But Kai dropped his hand, giving her space. Pain flickered across his face before he masked it. But you're right. The timing is terrible, and you don't know me. We'll deal with this later. Right now, Elena comes first. Elena comes first, Arya echoed, grateful for the reprieve. She couldn't process this, couldn't handle the idea that she had a mate, that it was him, that everything was changing so fast. Tell me where to find Vera, Kai said, all business now. I'll retrieve Elena while you prepare supplies for the journey. We leave at dawn. The Luna will know I'm gone. She's watching me. Then we'll need a distraction. Kai's smile was sharp and dangerous. Lucky for us, I'm very good at causing chaos. He moved past her, heading toward the palace, but paused at the garden entrance. Arya, thank you. For trusting me. For helping Damon. For... He stopped, jaw tight. Just thank you. Then he was gone, swallowed by shadows. Arya stood alone in the rose garden, her hand pressed to her chest, where two heartbeats now thrummed in perfect synchronicity. Beneath the earth, Damon's pulse flickered weakly. Somewhere in the palace, Elena's tiny heart beat steady and strong, and now binding her to a man she barely knew. A mate bond pulsed with undeniable truth. She'd woken up this morning as nobody, an Omega gardener with a terrible secret and no hope. Now she was a soul listener, a keeper of bloodlines, a mate. And most dangerous of all, she was someone who decided to fight. The Luna had made a critical error. She'd assumed Arya was powerless because she was Omega. But power didn't come from rank. It came from having something worth fighting for. Arya knelt beside the earth that held a dying prince and made a silent vow. She would save Damon. She would protect Elena. She would expose Celeste's lies. Or she would die trying. The earth beneath her palm trembled with Damon's failing heartbeat. And somewhere in the darkness, her mate's heart answered her own. Dawn was coming. The game had changed. And the Omega, nobody was about to become the most dangerous player on the board. Chapter 4, midnight came with a promise of frost and secrets. Arya met Kai at the rose garden, both of them dressed in dark clothes, tools hidden beneath their cloaks. The palace slept around them, but she could hear the heartbeats, hundreds of them, layered like music, the guards on their rounds, the servants in their quarters, the Luna in her chambers. Her pulse slow and steady with the confidence of someone who believed she'd already won. And beneath it all, under 6 feet of earth, Damon's heartbeat stuttered and skipped. We have to be fast, Kai whispered, already kneeling at the western corner. I've bribed the night guards to look the other way for an hour, but that's all we have. Arya knelt beside him, her hands already moving to clear the surface dirt. Where's Vera? Did you find her? Yes, she's packing Elena's things now. I've arranged for a trusted scout to take them east at dawn, through the mountain pass, where the Luna's spies won't see. His shovel bit into the earth with quiet efficiency. By the time Celeste realizes Eleanor is missing, they'll be halfway to Shadowfen. And if she comes after them? Then she'll have to go through me. The promise in his voice was lethal. They dug in silence, the only sounds their breathing and the soft scrape of metal on dirt. Arya's gift let her track Damon's heartbeat precisely, guiding them to dig in exactly the right spot. Within 20 minutes, they'd uncovered him. Kai sucked in a sharp breath. Gods above. Damon should have looked like a corpse, grey-skinned, lifeless, 4 days dead from wolfsbane poisoning. Instead, his skin held a strange luminescence, pale as moonlight. His chest rose and fell, with shallow breaths. And his lips were curved in a smile, a terrible, wrong smile that didn't reach his closed eyes. "That's not normal," Arya whispered. "No." Kai reached down, pressing his fingers to Damon's throat. "His pulse is stronger than it should be. The wolfsbane should have killed him by now. Something's keeping him alive, but it's changing him." As if hearing his name, Damon's eyes snapped open. They glowed pure gold, with no white or pupil visible, just molten amber light that seemed to burn from within. His smile widened, showing teeth that were slightly too sharp. "Hello, brother," he said to Kai, his voice a rasp. "Come to join me in the grave?" "Damon," Kai's hand tightened on his friend's shoulder. "Can you hear me? Do you know where you are?" "In the earth. In the dark. In the space between." Damon's glowing eyes shifted to Arya. "And who's this? A pretty little Omega come to watch me die? How thoughtful." The words were Damon's, but the tone was all wrong. Mocking, cruel, nothing like the kind prince everyone had described. Arya's wolf whimpered, sensing something fundamentally off. "The wolfsbane," she said. "It's doing something to him. Not just the wolfsbane." Kai started pulling Damon from the grave, and Arya helped. The prince was dead weight, his body cold, despite the eerie glow. "I've seen this once before, in a warrior who nearly died from silver poisoning. When a wolf is dying, sometimes the animal side will cannibalize the human half to survive. It buys time, but the cost is humanity," Damon finished, his voice sliding between his normal tone and something deeper, more growl than speech. "The wolf eats the man, until there's nothing left but beast." His eyes found Arya again, and for a moment the gold flickered, showing a flash of normal brown. "Run, little Omega, while you still can." Then the gold returned, and he laughed, a sound that made the hair on Arya's arm stand up. They got him out of the grave and half-carried, half-dragged him toward the tree line. Kai had prepared a hiding place, an old keeper's cottage deep in the woods, abandoned for years but still structurally sound. It took them 30 minutes to reach it, Damon alternating between limp cooperation and sudden thrashing. "The wolf wants out," Kai grunted as they maneuvered Damon through the cottage door. "It knows we're trying to save the human side, and it doesn't like that." They laid him on the single bed, and Arya immediately began checking him over. The wolfsbane poisoning was evident. Black veins spreading from his neck where he'd been injected, his skin cold, his breathing laboured. But underneath, something else was happening. His wolf was consuming him from the inside out. "How long does he have?" she asked. "A week? Maybe less?" Kai pulled out supplies from a pack he'd stashed earlier, water, bandages, herbs. "We need to flush the wolfsbane from his system and then find a way to stabilize the transformation. If we can't, he'll become feral," Arya finished. "A wolf with no human consciousness, no memory of who he was. Worse, he'll be a mad wolf. Dangerous to everyone, including himself. We'd have to—" Kai's voice cracked. "I'd have to put him down." Damon's eyes had closed, but now they opened again, that awful gold gleaming in the darkness. "Don't worry, brother. I release you from that burden. When the time comes, I'll walk into the sun and let it burn me away. Better that than becoming a monster." "You're not going to die," Kai said fiercely. "Either of you, man or wolf, we'll find a way to save both." "There is no way." But Damon's voice was softer now, more human. The gold in his eyes flickered like a dying flame. Celeste made sure of that. She didn't just poison me with wolfsbane. She added something else. Dark magic. Blood ritual. It's why the wolf is taking over. The curse is forcing the transformation, speeding it up. Why? Arya knelt beside the bed. Why go to such elaborate lengths to kill you? Because I found out the truth about Marcus. Damon struggled to sit up, and Kai helped him, propping pillows behind his back. I told you Celeste was manipulating everything, but it goes deeper than we thought. Marcus isn't my half-brother. He's not related to me or the king at all. Kai went very still. What are you saying? I'm saying Celeste never slept with my father. Never slept with the current king either, despite their marriage. Marcus is the biological son of Alpha Mordain from the Bloodclaw Pack, our enemies to the north. Damon's smile was bitter. She's been playing the longest game imaginable. Seduce and marry the heir. Kill him, marry his brother. Raise an enemy's son as the next Alpha King. And when the time is right, Mordain's bloodline takes control of Blood Moon without ever fighting a war. Arya's mind reeled. That's impossible. The pack would sense it, would know Marcus wasn't truly royal. Not if you hide it well enough. Marcus was glamoured from birth, a spell to mask his true bloodline, make him read as the king's son to anyone testing. Damon's breathing was getting heavier, the exertion of talking taking its toll. I only discovered it by accident. I walked in on Celeste renewing the glamour spell 6 months ago. Confronted her. She denied everything, but I started investigating. And you found proof, Kai said. I found the witch who cast the original glamour. Old woman, dying, guilty conscience. She told me everything. The affair with Mordain, the plan to infiltrate Blood Moon, the whole sordid scheme. I documented it, got written testimony, even found Celeste's correspondence with Mordain discussing their son's future as a planted heir. Where is it? Arya asked. The evidence? Damon's laugh was hollow. Burned. There was a fire in my private chambers 2 weeks ago, remember? Celeste claimed it was an accident, a fallen candle. But I know the truth. She found out I had evidence and destroyed it. Then she killed Mira to punish me for investigating. And when I threatened to expose her anyway, he gestured to himself. Here we are. We'll find new evidence, Kai said. The witch, dead. Killed in her sleep 3 days after I interviewed her. Another convenient accident. Damon closed his eyes. Celeste has covered her tracks perfectly. Without proof, it's my word against hers. And I'm supposed to be dead. Arya stood abruptly and walked to the cottage window, staring out at the dark forest. Her mind churned, piecing together the puzzle. Everything Damon had said made horrible sense, but something else nagged at her, something she'd noticed and dismissed. The king, she said slowly. Everyone says he's sick. Wasting away from grief over your disappearance. My uncle has been sick for years, Damon confirmed, ever since he married Celeste. She claimed it was the stress of leadership, the burden of the throne. But I think she's poisoning him too. Arya turned back to face them, slowly, keeping him weak but alive, because she needs him on the throne until Marcus is old enough to rule. That's what I suspected, but I could never prove it. The king's healers say his condition is natural, just age and stress. It's not natural. Arya's heart raced as the pieces clicked into place. The king's heartbeat, I've heard it from across the palace. It's wrong, too slow, too irregular, like it's being suppressed somehow. Kai looked at her sharply. You can hear that? The specific quality of his heartbeat? I can hear everything about a heartbeat, its strength, its rhythm, whether it's healthy or corrupted. She focused inward, reaching out with her gift across the distance to the palace. There, the king's chambers. His heartbeat was barely a whisper, buried under layers of something dark and sticky. He's not just sick. He's in some kind of magical stasis. His body is alive, but his consciousness is trapped. A coma, Damon breathed. She's keeping him in a magical coma. Which means he's still in there, Arya said urgently. Still aware, still the rightful Alpha King. If we could wake him, he'd expose Celeste himself. Kai's eyes lit with hope. He'd have the authority to order her execution, legitimize Elena as heir, everything. But how do we wake him? Damon asked. Breaking a blood curse requires the caster or someone who can hear the truth beneath the magic. Arya looked at her hands. At these ordinary Omega hands that apparently held extraordinary power. A soul listener can hear the essence of life. If the king's consciousness is still there, I can hear it. And if I can hear it, maybe I can reach it. Call him back. That's insane, Kai said. But he didn't say it was impossible. Everything about this situation is insane. Arya moved back to Damon's bedside. You were buried alive. Your baby daughter is being hunted by her own grandmother. The kingdom is being ruled by a woman who's orchestrated murders and planted an enemy heir on the throne. At this point, insane is all we have left. Damon studied her with those unsettling gold eyes. The humanity in them flickered in and out like a candle in the wind. You're braver than you look, little Omega. I'm not brave, I'm terrified. Arya met his gaze steadily. But terror doesn't mean doing nothing. Something passed between them, a moment of understanding, of recognition. And that's when Arya felt it. The heartbeat she'd noticed in the rose garden, the one that matched her own rhythm. It wasn't Kai's, it was Damon's. Her breath caught. No, that couldn't be right. Kai was her mate. She'd felt the bond between them, heard their hearts synchronize. But now, standing close to Damon, she felt the same pull, the same recognition. Kai noticed her reaction. Arya, what's wrong? She couldn't speak, couldn't explain that her heart was beating in time with two different men, which should have been impossible. Mate bonds were singular, exclusive. You couldn't have two mates, could you? Damon's eyes widened, the gold flickering to brown and back again. You feel it, he said quietly. The bond. I can't. Arya stepped back, shaking her head. You're mourning Mira. You loved her. I can't be. Mate bonds don't ask permission, Damon said, echoing Kai's words from earlier. They simply are. Pain crossed his face. I did love Mira, still do. She gave me Elena, gave me hope for a different kind of future. But Mira and I, we chose each other. We weren't fated. What does that mean? It means what we had was real and beautiful, but it wasn't a mate bond. Damon's voice roughened. I felt the stirrings of the true bond months ago, actually. A pull towards someone I'd never met, a heartbeat that called to mine. I thought I was imagining it, confused it with grief. But it was you. All along, it was you. Kai had gone very quiet. When Arya looked at him, she saw understanding and resignation in his eyes. It's not me. Is it? He said softly. The bond you felt. It was never me. But I heard. Arya's voice broke. Our hearts, they synchronized, because you wanted them to. Kai's smile was sad. Soul listeners don't just hear heartbeats, Arya. They can influence them too, unconsciously. You wanted a mate, wanted connection, and your gift reached out to the nearest possibility. Me. We resonated because you made us resonate. I didn't mean to. I know. He touched her face gently, and for a moment, I let myself hope. But true mate bonds are unmistakable, and yours belongs to him. He gestured to Damon. The prince was watching them with those flickering gold eyes, his expression unreadable. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. The timing of this is terrible, Arya finished. You're dying. I'm Omega. You're grieving your lost love. I'm hunted by your murderous aunt. This is the worst possible time for a mate bond to manifest. Which means it must be pretty strong, Damon said dryly. Fate has a sense of humour. Despite everything, Arya almost laughed. Then reality crashed back and she sobered. It doesn't matter. Bond or no bond, we have bigger problems. You have a week before you go feral. Elena needs to reach Shadowfen safely. The king needs to be woken from his magical coma, and Celeste will kill us all if we don't move fast. Kai had pulled himself together, his voice steady despite the rejection he'd just endured. So here's what we do. Arya, you go back to the palace and act normal. Keep your routines, don't raise suspicion, but start working your way closer to the king. Volunteer for chamber duty, whatever it takes. We need you in position to attempt waking him. What about Damon? I'll stay with him. Try to slow the transformation. Keep him lucid as long as possible. Kai's hand rested on his friend's shoulder. And we pray that we can pull off a miracle before time runs out. 1 week, Damon said. His eyes were closing, exhaustion overtaking him. Find the proof. Wake the king. Save Elena. Simple. Nothing about this is simple, Arya muttered. But she knew Kai was right. They needed a plan. Needed to move carefully despite the urgency clawing at them. She took one last look at Damon, her mate, impossibly, and saw the human consciousness struggling against the wolf taking over. Fight it, she told him. Whatever the wolf tells you, whoever you think you're becoming, fight it. Stay human. Stay Damon. His gold eyes opened one last time. For a moment they were brown again, fully human, fully aware. I'll try. For you, for Elena, for all of us. Then the gold returned, and he smiled that terrible smile, and Arya had to leave before her heart broke. Kai walked her to the edge of the forest. Dawn was maybe an hour away, the sky already lightening to grey. They needed to separate before anyone noticed they'd been together. I'm sorry, she said, about the bond. About... Don't. Kai's voice was gentle. You have nothing to apologize for. You didn't choose this any more than I did. And honestly? He smiled, genuine despite the pain in his eyes. I'm glad it's Damon. He needs you. And you need him. That's how mate bonds work. Even when one half is dying? Especially then. Kai glanced back toward the cottage. Mate bonds have power, Arya. Real power. Yours might be the only thing strong enough to anchor his humanity, keep the wolf from consuming him entirely. I don't know how. You'll figure it out. You're a soul listener. You hear the essence of life itself. He squeezed her shoulder. Now go. Be careful. And remember, the Luna is watching. Don't give her any reason to suspect. Arya nodded and slipped back through the forest toward the palace. The eastern sky was bleeding pink and orange, dawn arriving with all its false promises of new beginnings. She made it back to the Omega quarters just as the other women were waking. No one noticed she'd been gone. No one cared. She was invisible again, just another Omega gardener with dirt under her nails and exhaustion in her bones. But as she lay in her narrow cot, pretending to sleep, she felt it. 2 heartbeats that weren't her own. Damon's, weak and failing in the cottage, and the king's, trapped and screaming in his magical prison, both of them calling to her, both of them needing her to be more than she'd ever been. Arya closed her eyes and listened to the symphony of hearts beating across the palace, the kingdom, the world. So many lives, so many stories, so much at stake. And for the first time in her life, she understood what it meant to have power. Not the power of rank or bloodline, but the power of choice. The power to act, to fight, to refuse to be invisible anymore. She'd been buried once, in her own way, buried under expectations and limitations and lies about what Omegas could be. Now she was digging herself out, and she was going to save them all, or die trying. Chapter 5. The orphanage sat at the kingdom's edge like a forgotten prayer. Arya and Kai approached it just after dawn, both exhausted from the night's revelations, but moving with purpose. Vera had given them detailed directions before she'd left with Elena, or so they'd thought. But when Kai had returned to check on the handmaid, he'd found her unconscious in her chambers, drugged and bleeding from a head wound. Elena was gone. Someone had taken her in the night, and the only clue was a hastily scrawled note in a child's handwriting. Safe, orphanage, come. It doesn't make sense, Arya whispered as they neared the weathered building. Elena's 6 months old. She can't write. Nothing about this situation makes sense. Kai's hand rested on the hilt of his sword. But if there's even a chance she's here, we have to try. The orphanage was run down but clean, surrounded by a garden that had seen better days. A hand-painted sign read, Sister Margot's Home for Lost Children. Smoke rose from the chimney and Arya could hear heartbeats inside. 12 children, maybe more, and 1 adult. But there was another heartbeat too, small and rapid, unmistakable in its resonance. She's here, Arya breathed. I can hear her. They approached the front door cautiously. Before Kai could knock, it swung open, revealing a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and flour-dusted hands. You're late, Sister Margot said simply. She's been asking for you all morning. Come in quickly now. We don't have much time. She ushered them inside, through a main room where children were eating breakfast, and up a narrow staircase to a small bedroom. There, sitting on a bed and playing with a wooden doll, was a baby who shouldn't exist. Elena had Damon's dark hair and strong features, but her eyes, gods, her eyes. They shifted between gold and silver like molten metal, never settling on one colour. She looked up when they entered, and her face broke into a smile. Mama, she said clearly, reaching for Arya. I've been waiting for you. Arya's heart stopped. The voice was a child's, high and sweet, but the words were too articulate, too knowing. 6-month-old babies didn't speak in full sentences. They didn't recognize strangers as parents. What? Arya looked at Sister Margot. How is she? Talking, walking, writing notes to summon you here? The old woman smiled sadly. The child is special, has been since birth. Her mother knew it, warned me about it before she died. Sophia. Kai knelt beside the bed, studying Elena with wonder and wariness. You knew her? I knew her family. Sophia's grandmother was my sister, a hedge witch, though we don't advertise such things in wolf territory. Sister Margot moved to the window, checking the road outside. When Sophia got pregnant with the prince's child, she came to me, said she'd had a vision, that her daughter would be born with 2 souls, wolf and witch, and that this would make her powerful beyond measure, but also hunted. Elena reached for Arya again, her small hands insistent. Mama, please. Arya looked at Kai helplessly. He nodded, and she carefully picked up the baby, settling her on her hip. Elena immediately relaxed, curling into Arya's chest with a contented sigh. She shouldn't call me that, Arya said. I'm not her mother, aren't you? Elena looked up at her with those shifting eyes. You're Papa's mate, his true heart. That makes you my mama, even if the bond isn't claimed yet. The casual way she said it, with a 6-month-old's face but ancient wisdom in her voice, was deeply unsettling. How is this possible? Kai asked. Witch blood accelerates everything, Sister Margot explained. Mind, body, power. Elena has the cognitive abilities of a 6-year-old already, maybe older. By the time she's actually 6, she'll be as wise as someone 3 times that age. It's a blessing and a curse. Mostly curse, Elena said matter-of-factly. People fear what they don't understand. That's why Grandmother Celeste wants me dead. Not just because I'm Papa's heir, but because I'm proof that magic and wolf blood can mix. If I live, I could change everything about pack law, pack culture. She can't allow that. Hearing adult words from a baby's mouth was surreal. Arya held her tighter, protective instincts surging. How did you get here? Kai asked. Vera said she was hiding you. She was. But last night I had a dream. Mama Sophia came to me. Elena's eyes went distant. She's dead but not gone. Witch blood keeps us connected to those we love, even after death. She told me Vera was in danger, that I needed to come here to wait for you. So I convinced Vera to sleep, and I walked. You walked, Arya repeated. You're 6 months old. I'm also half witch. We mature fast when we need to. Elena's expression turned serious. And I need to mature very fast, because bad people are coming. They're already close. As if summoning them with her words, Arya heard it, new heartbeats approaching, fast, aggressive, 4 of them, moving with military precision toward the orphanage. Assassins, she gasped, 4 of them coming from the east. Kai was on his feet instantly, sword drawn. Sister Margot, get the children to the cellar, now. The old woman didn't argue, just gathered her skirts and hurried downstairs, calling orders. The sound of children's feet thundered as they moved, trained for this. They'd practiced emergency evacuations before. Can you fight? Kai asked Arya. I'm a gardener. I've never held a weapon in my life. Then your job is to protect Elena. Keep her alive, no matter what. He moved to the window. They're coming through the front and back simultaneously. Professional killers, probably from the Luna's personal guard. Elena squirmed in Arya's arms. Put me down, Mama. I can help. You're a baby. I'm a witch. Elena's eyes flashed pure silver. And I'm stronger than I look. Before Arya could respond, the front door exploded inward. 2 men in dark leathers burst through, weapons drawn. They weren't palace guards. These were mercenaries, hired killers with wolf eyes and no mercy. Kai met them head-on, his sword singing. He was magnificent in battle, all controlled violence and predatory grace. He took down the first assassin within seconds, then engaged the second. But the other 2 were coming through the back. Arya heard them, heard their heartbeats sync up as they coordinated their attack. She backed toward the stairs, Elena in her arms, trying to think of a way out. The assassins burst through the kitchen. One headed for the cellar, going after the children. The other started up the stairs toward Arya. Give us the hybrid, the man growled. And we'll make it quick. No. Arya's voice was steadier than she felt. He lunged. Arya threw herself backward, tumbling down the stairs with Eleanor clutched tight. They hit the ground hard, pain exploding through her shoulder. The assassin was on them in seconds, knife raised. And Arya did something she didn't know she could do. She listened to his heartbeat, that steady, strong rhythm, and she reached for it. Not with her hands, but with her gift, with the power that made her a soul listener. She grabbed his heart with her will and squeezed. The assassin stopped mid-strike, eyes going wide. His heartbeat stuttered, skipped, stopped. He collapsed, dead before he hit the ground. Arya stared at her hands, horrified. I couldn't have... You did. Elena's voice was calm. Soul listeners can hear life. But the most powerful ones can influence it too. You just saved us, Mama. The second assassin, the one who'd gone for the cellar, came running at the sound of his partner's fall. Kai intercepted him, and they fought viciously. The assassin was good, landing several blows that would have killed a lesser fighter. But Kai was better. He ended it with a blade through the ribs, quick and efficient. Then silence, except for the sound of children crying in the cellar and Arya's ragged breathing. We need to move, Kai said, cleaning his sword. If they found her here, others will follow. This location is compromised. Where do we go? Arya was still shaking, still processing what she'd done. She'd stopped a man's heart with her mind. That wasn't healing or helping. That was killing. Back to Damon. We need to regroup, figure out... Kai stopped, looking at Elena. Can you walk? We'll move faster if... I can run if needed, Elena said. Then, more softly, is Papa okay? I can feel him through our blood bond, but he's fading. He's sick, Arya said carefully. Very sick. We're trying to help him. The wolfsbane is killing him. It wasn't a question. Elena's ancient eyes held too much understanding. And his wolf is eating what's left of his humanity. I can feel it happening, feel him slipping away. They gathered what they could, supplies from the orphanage, weapons from the dead assassins, and left quickly. Sister Margot promised to evacuate with the children, scatter them to safe houses across the territory. The orphanage would have to be abandoned. another casualty in Celeste's war. The journey back to the keeper's cottage took 2 hours. Elena walked the whole way without complaint, her small legs moving with preternatural endurance. She hummed as they travelled, an old lullaby that Arya recognized from her own childhood. "My mama used to sing that," Arya said. "I know. Mama Sophia showed me. She's been teaching me things, even though she's gone. How to survive, how to use my gifts." Elena's voice wavered for the first time, showing her true age. "I miss her. I know I'm only 6 months old, and I barely knew her, but I miss her so much." Arya's heart broke. She reached down and took Elena's hand, and they walked like that the rest of the way, mother and daughter in everything but blood. When they reached the cottage, Kai entered first, checking for threats. Then he called them in, his voice tight with worry. Damon was worse. He thrashed on the bed, alternating between human and half-shifted form, his body unable to settle. The black veins from the wolfsbane had spread across his chest and down his arms. His eyes were pure gold now, no brown remaining, and he snarled when they entered. "Get out," he growled. "Can't control it much longer. Don't want to hurt." His words cut off as he convulsed, body twisting. Bones cracked and reformed, fur sprouting and receding. The transformation was happening too fast, too chaotically. The wolf was winning. "Papa!" Elena rushed forward, and Damon's gold eyes fixed on her. For a moment, recognition flickered. "Baby girl," he rasped. "My Elena, you're safe. Thank the gods. I'm safe because of Mama." Elena climbed onto the bed fearless and pressed her small hand to her father's chest. "But you're not safe, Papa. The poison is killing you, and the wolf is taking over. You're running out of time." "I know." Damon's voice was breaking between human speech and animal growls. "Better this way. Better than becoming a monster." "There's an antidote," Elena said urgently. "Mama Sophia told me. Before she died, she made me memorize it in case you ever needed it." Kai and Arya both straightened. "An antidote?" Kai breathed. "Why didn't you mention this before?" "Because it only works under specific conditions." Elena looked at Arya, the tears of a true mate freely given, mixed with wolfsbane root and drunk under the full moon. "It will purge the poison and anchor the humanity." "The full moon is tomorrow night," Kai said. "We can do this. Arya, you just need to—" "No." Damon's voice cut through the hope like a blade. His gold eyes found Arya, and there was such pain in them. "I won't, can't. Papa," Elena started. "I'm still in love with your mother," Damon said, each word forced out. "Sophia was my world. Yes, I feel the mate bond with Arya. I'd be a fool not to. But accepting it, claiming it, feels like betraying everything Sophia and I had. Like saying she didn't matter." "She did matter," Arya said quietly. "She'll always matter. But she's gone, Damon, and you're here dying and refusing to live because of guilt. It's not just guilt, it's—" He closed his eyes. "I don't know how to let her go. Don't know how to open my heart to someone new when the old love still bleeds." "Then don't," Arya said, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. "Don't open your heart. Don't claim the bond. Don't love me. I don't care about any of that." Damon's eyes opened, confused. "I care about Elena having a father," Arya continued. "I care about the kingdom having its rightful heir. I care about exposing Celeste's crimes and protecting innocent lives. My feelings, what I want or need from a mate bond, none of that matters right now." "Your tears won't work if they're not freely given," Elena said softly. "The magic requires genuine emotion. You have to cry for him because you love him, not just because you want to save him." "Then we're doomed." Damon's laugh was bitter. "Because she can't love me. We barely know each other, and I can't love her back. Not yet. Maybe not ever." The words landed like blows, even though Arya had known they were coming. The mate bond pulsed between them, a connection neither had asked for, and it hurt. It hurt more than she'd expected. Being rejected by someone her soul recognized as its other half. There has to be another way, Kai said desperately. Another antidote, another cure. There isn't. Eleanor's voice was ancient and sad. Mama Sophia was very clear. This is the only way to save him. True mate's tears freely given, born of genuine love. They fell into helpless silence. Outside, the sun climbed higher, marking time they didn't have. Tomorrow night was the full moon, their only chance to administer the antidote. After that, Damon would be too far gone, too consumed by the wolf to save. Arya looked at this man who was supposed to be her mate, this dying prince she barely knew, and felt the impossible weight of what was being asked. She had to fall in love with him in less than a day. Had to feel it so deeply that tears would come. Tears powerful enough to break a curse. And he had to let her, even though his heart belonged to a ghost. "I'll try," she said finally. "I don't know if I can do it, but I'll try. For Elena, for the kingdom, for you whether you want it or not." Damon looked at her with those terrible gold eyes, and she saw the human consciousness still fighting inside. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Sorry you got bound to such a broken mate. You deserve better." "We all deserve better than what we got," Arya said. "But we work with what we have." She settled into the chair beside his bed, reaching for his hand. He flinched but didn't pull away. His skin was burning, the fever of transformation consuming him from within. Elena curled up at the foot of the bed, her small body already exhausted from the day's drama. Within minutes, she was asleep, looking finally like the baby she was supposed to be. Kai took watch by the door, giving them what privacy he could, and Arya sat with her dying mate, holding his hand, listening to his heartbeat stutter and struggle, and tried to figure out how to love someone who didn't want to be loved. The sun set. Night fell. Tomorrow would bring the full moon and their last chance at salvation. But tonight, in the darkness, all they had was grief and impossible choices and a bond neither of them knew how to claim. "Tell me about her," Arya said quietly. "About Sophia. If I'm going to cry for you, I should understand who you're mourning." Damon's grip on her hand tightened, and as the moon rose outside the cottage window, he began to speak. He told her about love and loss, about choices and consequences, about a woman who died too young and a man who didn't know how to live without her. And Arya listened, hearing not just his words, but his heartbeat beneath them, that failing, desperate rhythm that matched her own. Time was running out, and she still didn't know how to save him. Chapter 5. Time was a cruel master, and they were running out of it. Arya spent the night listening to Damon talk about Sophia, about her laugh, her courage, the way she'd challenged him to be better than his birthright demanded. Every word was a love letter to a ghost, and every word drove the knife deeper into Arya's heart. The mate bond pulsed between them, ignored and aching. By dawn, Damon had fallen into a fitful sleep, his body still shifting between forms. Elena woke and ate breakfast with the solemn efficiency of someone 3 times her age. Kai paced the small cottage like a caged animal, checking weapons and planning escape routes they might never use. "We need allies," Kai said finally, breaking the tense silence. "Even if we cure Damon, even if we save Elena, we can't fight Celeste alone. We need the king." "The king is comatose," Arya said. "You said so yourself. You also said he's still aware, still conscious inside the spell." Kai crouched beside her chair. "You're a soul listener, Arya. If anyone can reach him, it's you. And if we can wake him?" "He'd have the authority to stop Celeste," she finished, "to legitimize Elena, expose the truth about Marcus." "Exactly. It's risky." Elena's voice was soft but certain. "If we fail, if Grandmother Celeste discovers what we're attempting, she'll have all the excuse she needs to execute us publicly." Treason against the Alpha King is a death sentence. Everything we're doing is risky, Kai countered. But we're out of time. The full moon is tonight. That's our window to cure Damon. But even cured, he's still supposedly dead. We need the king alive and aware to validate Damon's return. Arya looked at Damon, unconscious and deteriorating. Then at Elena, a baby with ancient eyes who'd already seen too much. Then at Kai, who'd lost his chance at a mate bond, but still fought beside them. How do we get to the king, she asked. His chambers are guarded, and I'm just an Omega gardener. I can't exactly walk in and demand access to the Alpha King. You don't have to. Kai's smile was sharp. I'm still technically the prince's beta. Until Damon is officially declared dead and buried, I retain certain privileges, including access to the king's sick room to pay respects and pray for guidance. They'll never let me come with you. They will if you're carrying medicine for the king's comfort. Omega healers attend the sick room regularly. He stood, already planning. Elena, can your magic help break the curse on the king? Maybe. Probably. I don't know. Elena's usual confidence faltered. I've never done anything like this before. My magic is strong but unstable. I could wake him, or I could kill him, or I could turn him into a toad. Witchcraft isn't precise when you're 6 months old. Reassuring, Kai muttered. But we don't have better options. I'll need to touch him, Arya said, thinking it through. Place my hands on his chest, listen to his heart, find the consciousness trapped inside. Then Elena's magic can target the binding while I anchor the king's awareness. It might work. And if it doesn't? Then we've committed treason for nothing, and we'll all die. Arya stood, squaring her shoulders. But we're probably going to die anyway, so we might as well try. They prepared quickly. Kai dressed in his formal beta attire, leather and steel that marked his rank. Arya wore a simple healer's robe borrowed from Sister Margot's supplies, with Elena hidden in a sling beneath her cloak. The baby was small enough to conceal, and her witch blood let her mask her presence when needed. Damon woke as they were leaving, his gold eyes tracking their movements. Where? His voice was more growl than speech now. To wake the king, Kai said. To save you, you stubborn bastard. Try not to go completely feral before we get back. Can't promise. Damon's gaze found Iria. Be careful, she's dangerous. Celeste. More than you know. I know. Arya moved to his bedside, checking his pulse. It was erratic, barely sustaining life. Hold on, just a few more hours. We'll have the antidote by tonight. If I can cry for you, she didn't say. If I can love you enough to break the curse. His hand caught hers, grip weak but desperate. Don't have to love me. Just let me go. Let me follow Sophia. No. The word came out harder than she intended. You don't get to quit. Elena needs her father. The kingdom needs its prince. And I... She stopped, the words catching in her throat. I need you to fight. His eyes flickered, brown showing through the gold for just a moment. Then it was gone, and he released her hand, turning away. They left him there, alone and dying, and walked into the lion's den. The palace was draped in mourning black, supposedly for Damon, but really celebrating his death. Arya could hear it in the heartbeats around her, the relief of some nobles who'd feared Damon's progressive policies, the genuine grief of the lower ranks who'd loved him, the cold satisfaction emanating from the Luna's chambers. Celeste knew Damon was dead, believed it absolutely. That confidence would be their advantage. Kai led them through the servant corridors, avoiding the main halls where questions might be asked. They reached the king's chambers without incident. 2 guards stood at the door, but they recognized Kai and stepped aside with barely a glance at Arya. Inside, the rooms were dark and stuffy, heavy with the smell of sickness and stale air. The Alpha King lay in a massive bed, propped up on pillows, his eyes closed and his breathing shallow. He looked ancient, far older than his 53 years. His hair was white, his skin papery, his body wasted. But his heart still beat. Arya heard it, faint but present. "Your Majesty," Kai said formally, approaching the bed. "I've brought a healer, for your comfort." The king didn't respond, didn't even twitch. Arya moved closer, her hands trembling. This was it. This was where they'd either save everything or lose everything. She glanced at the door. The guards were outside, not watching closely. They had maybe 10 minutes before someone checked on them. "Elena," she whispered, "are you ready?" The baby squirmed in her sling, pressing a tiny hand against Arya's chest. "Ready, Mama, but hurry." "I can feel Grandmother's attention moving this way. She suspects something." Of course she did. Celeste's web of control extended everywhere. Arya placed both hands on the king's chest, over his heart, and closed her eyes. She let her gift expand, reaching deep past flesh and bone and blood, seeking the consciousness she knew was trapped inside. There, beneath layers of dark magic, sticky, poisonous spellwork that coated everything like tar, she found it. The king's awareness, screaming silently, locked behind barriers he couldn't break. And when she touched it, his wolf recognized her. The recognition hit her like a physical blow. The king's wolf knew her, knew what she was, knew that she was the key to freeing him. It lunged toward her consciousness, desperate and feral, with a year of captivity. "Help us," it seemed to say. "Break the chains." "I've got him," Arya gasped. "Elena, now!" The baby's hand pressed harder against her chest, and Arya felt the surge of power. Raw, untamed witch magic flowing through Elena's tiny body. It was like holding lightning, barely controlled and dangerous as hell. The magic hit the king's binding curse like a hammer, and the dark spellwork cracked. Not broke, not shattered, just cracked, creating fissures in the prison. But it was enough. The king's eyes snapped open, gasping like a drowning man breaking the surface. His hand shot out, gripping Arya's wrist with unexpected strength. "Who?" His voice was hoarse, unused for months. "What happened? Where is—" "Your Majesty, please stay calm." Kai was beside them instantly, supporting the king's shoulders. "You've been ill? Cursed, actually." "We just broke the binding." "Cursed?" The king's eyes, brown, clear, aware, darted around the room. "I don't understand. The last thing I remember is dinner. With Celeste? She served wine, then nothing." "How long?" "A year," Arya said quietly. "You've been in a magical coma for almost a year." The king's face went grey. "A year. Gods above. And Damon, where is my nephew? The succession—" "There's a lot to explain, Your Majesty, and not much time." Kai glanced at the door. "But first, you need to see something." He nodded to Arya, who carefully pulled Eleanor from her sling. The baby looked at her grandfather with solemn eyes, gold and silver, shifting like storm clouds. "Your Majesty," Arya said, "this is Princess Elena, your granddaughter, Damon's daughter." The king stared. Then his eyes welled with tears. And Arya felt it through her gift, the blood bond activating, resonating between grandfather and grandchild. It was unmistakable, undeniable. This child was his bloodline. "Damon had a daughter," he whispered. "When? How?" "He married in secret," Kai said, "to a woman named Sophia. The Luna had her killed and tried to kill Damon too when he discovered—" The door burst open, 4 royal guards stormed in, weapons drawn, and behind them came Luna Celeste, resplendent in black silk, her face a mask of shock and concern. "What is the meaning of this?" she cried. "Guards, seize them! They're attacking the king!" "We're not—" Kai started, but the guards were already moving. "Stop!" The king's voice cracked like a whip, still carrying alpha command despite his weakness. The guards froze. "Stand down. These people are under my protection." Celeste's eyes widened, genuine surprise, quickly masked. "My love, you're awake. Thank the gods. But you're confused, ill. These traitors have done something to you, enchanted you." "I'm not enchanted. I'm finally free." The king struggled to sit up, and Kai helped him. What happened to me, Celeste? Why was I imprisoned in my own mind? Imprisoned? Darling, you've been ill, wasting sickness. The healers have been treating you for months. Her performance was flawless. Concern, confusion, hurt. You're not thinking clearly. Let me call the healers. I'm thinking perfectly clearly, for the first time in a year. The king's gaze moved to Elena, still cradled in Aria's arms. And I want to know why no one told me I have a granddaughter. Celeste's face went carefully blank. I don't know what they've told you, but that child is not. She's blood, the king interrupted. I can feel it. The pack bond doesn't lie. He looked at Kai. Explain everything, now. Kai took a breath and began speaking, telling the king about Damon's secret marriage, about Sophia's murder, about the prince's disappearance and supposed death. He laid out their suspicions about Celeste's involvement, about Marcus's questionable lineage, about the systematic poisoning of the king himself. With every word, a crowd gathered. Nobles and guards, drawn by the commotion. They filled the doorway, pressed into the hall, listening. And Celeste's expression shifted from concern to cold calculation. Lies, she said when Kai finished. Her voice carried to the crowd, pitched perfectly for maximum effect. All lies, told by traitors who kidnapped an innocent child and enchanted our beloved king. Prince Damon is dead. We mourned him. This is a plot to destabilize the kingdom during our time of grief. Damon isn't dead, Arya said. She hadn't meant to speak, but the words came anyway. He's alive, barely, but alive. The crowd murmured. Celeste's eyes narrowed. Prove it, she said softly. Show us this supposedly living prince. He's too ill to move, Kai said. The wolfsbane poisoning. How convenient. A living prince who can't be produced, a granddaughter who appears from nowhere, and a king who wakes from his sickbed with a story that conveniently paints his devoted wife as a villain. Celeste moved closer to the king, her hand on his shoulder, possessive, protective. My love, they've done something to your mind. Made you believe their fantasies. Please, let me help you. Don't touch me. The king shrugged off her hand, and the crowd gasped. A Luna rejected by her king in public. It was unthinkable. I don't know what game you're playing, Celeste, but I remember, not everything, but enough. I remember that dinner, the wine tasting strange, your smile when I collapsed. You're confused? I'm not. He stood shakily, using Kai for support. I hereby order a full investigation into the circumstances of my illness, Prince Damon's disappearance, and the legitimacy of Princess Elena's claim. Until such investigation is complete, all parties will remain in protective custody. It was a brilliant move, neither condemning nor exonerating anyone, buying them time. But Celeste wasn't finished. Of course, Your Majesty. Whatever you command. Her smile was poison sweet. But perhaps we should start the investigation with Lord Kai's recent activities, specifically his frequent meetings with a certain contact from the Bloodclaw pack. Kai went still. What are you talking about? Your trusted friend, Marcus Redfield, the one you've been using to smuggle messages and coordinate this little rebellion. Celeste's smile widened. Did you really think I didn't know? Marcus has been reporting to me for months. Everything you've planned, everywhere you've hidden, everyone you've trusted. I've known it all. The colour drained from Kai's face. No, Marcus wouldn't betray you? Oh, my dear boy, everyone betrays everyone eventually. It's just a matter of finding the right price. Celeste turned to the guards. Marcus Redfield has provided testimony that Lord Kai conspired with enemies of the kingdom to stage a coup. He's also provided the location of Prince Damon's hiding place, a keeper's cottage in the western woods. No. The word came from Aria, low and desperate. You can't. I can, and I have. Guards are already on their way to retrieve the prince, or his body, depending on what they find. Celeste's eyes glittered with victory. If he's truly alive, wonderful. We'll nurse him back to health and discover the truth of these accusations. And if he's dead, as I suspect, then we'll have proof that you've been lying about everything. The crowd was dividing before their eyes. Some nobles looked shocked, uncertain. Others looked at Kai and Arya with suspicion, already believing Celeste's version of events. The kingdom's loyalty was fracturing, splitting down the middle. Civil war. They were heading for civil war. Your Majesty, Celeste said, her voice gentle now, coaxing. Please, return to bed. You're weak, vulnerable to manipulation. Let me handle this situation while you recover. The king looked at her, and Arya saw the doubt creeping in. He'd been cursed for a year. His mind was foggy, and Celeste's lies were so perfectly constructed, so reasonable sounding. The child, he said finally, looking at Elena. I felt the blood bond. That wasn't manipulation. Blood bonds can be faked with the right magic, Celeste said smoothly, especially by witch-blooded children. That baby could be anyone's. She's mine. The shout came from the doorway and everyone turned. Damon stood there barely. He was supported by two of Kai's allies, wolves Arya didn't recognize. His skin was grey, his eyes still wrong, still too much gold. He could barely stand. But he was there, alive, and the crowd gasped. My son? The king breathed. Uncle. Damon's voice was a rasp. Sorry about the dramatic entrance. Took longer to get here than expected. Dying is surprisingly time-consuming. He took 3 steps into the room before his legs gave out. His supporters caught him, lowering him carefully to the floor. Celeste stared at him like he was a ghost made flesh, which in a way he was. Impossible, she whispered. You should be... Dead? Yes, I know. Inconvenient for you, I'm sure. Damon's smile was terrible, showing too many teeth. But here I am, alive, barely, and ready to tell everyone exactly what you did. The room exploded into chaos. Guards moving forward, nobles shouting questions. The king trying to reach his nephew. And through it all, Arya heard the heartbeats, hundreds of them, discordant and afraid. The kingdom was tearing itself apart. And somewhere in the confusion, Celeste slipped away. Arya saw her go, saw the Luna retreat through a servant's entrance with her most loyal guards, running or regrouping. Either way, they'd lost their chance to capture her. Kai, Arya said urgently, she's escaping. But Kai wasn't listening. He was staring at one of the men who'd brought Damon, Marcus Redfield, his supposedly trusted friend. The man wouldn't meet his eyes. How long? Kai asked quietly. How long have you been hers? Since the beginning, Marcus said. I'm sorry. She has my sister. Said she'd kill her if I didn't cooperate. I didn't have a choice. We always have a choice. Not when it's family. Marcus finally looked up, and there were tears on his face. I'm sorry, Kai, for everything. But at least I got him here alive. That's worth something, isn't it? Before Kai could answer, Damon spoke again, his voice fading. Uncle, Elena is mine. My daughter. My heir. Please. Protect her. I will, the king promised. I swear it. Damon's eyes found Arya across the chaos. Their gazes locked, and she felt the mate bond pulse between them, still unclaimed, still denied, but undeniably there. Tonight, he mouthed. Full moon, either I'm cured or I'm gone. Then his eyes rolled back, and he collapsed completely. The crowd pressed closer. The king shouted orders, healers rushed forward, and Arya stood there holding Elena, a baby who shouldn't exist, watching her mate die in front of a kingdom that couldn't decide if he was hero or villain. The full moon was rising. Time had run out, and she still didn't know how to cry for a man who didn't want to be loved. Chapter 7. The full moon rose like a judgment. They'd moved Damon back to the keeper's cottage under heavy guard, half loyal to the king, half watching for treachery. The kingdom had fractured along fault lines no one had seen coming. Some believed Damon's story, others believed Celeste's. Most simply didn't know what to believe anymore. Arya sat beside Damon's bed, grinding wolfsbane root with mortar and pestle, preparing the antidote that might save him. Might, if she could cry, if her tears were pure enough, if the magic decided to work. Eleanor was with the king, protected by his personal guard. At least that was something. At least the baby was safe. Kai stood by the window, watching the tree line. He'd barely spoken since Marcus's betrayal had been revealed. The cut went deep, not just the tactical loss, but the personal one. He'd trusted Marcus like a brother. Everyone was losing something in this war. "The moon's high enough," Kai said quietly. "If you're going to do this, it has to be now." Arya looked at Damon. He was conscious, but barely, his body racked with tremors as the wolf fought for dominance. His eyes were pure gold, no humanity visible. She'd spent the last 6 hours sitting with him, holding his hand, trying to feel something, anything, that might generate the tears they needed. She felt the mate bond, felt the connection pulling at her soul. But love, real, deep, tears-worthy love, that took time they didn't have. "I can't," she whispered. "I'm trying, but I can't force myself to love someone I barely know." "Then we're out of options." Kai's voice was flat. "He'll be fully feral by dawn. We'll have to—" He stopped, unable to say it. Put him down, execute the prince they'd fought so hard to save. Damon's hand twitched and his mouth moved, forming words that were more growl than speech. "Let go. Sophia's waiting." "She's not waiting," Arya said, frustrated and frightened and exhausted. "She's dead, Damon. Dead and gone. And you're here, alive, with people who need you. Stop being so goddamn devoted to a ghost and fight." His eyes flickered, brown showing through for just a second. "Not just devotion. It's fear." The words were clearer than anything he'd said in hours. Arya leaned closer. Fear of what? Loving again. Losing again. "Can't." His breath rattled. "Can't survive losing someone else. Easier to die. Easier to follow her than risk." "Risk what? Caring about someone new?" Arya's voice cracked. "You think I'm not terrified too? You think I wanted this mate bond? This connection to a man who's half feral and in love with a dead woman? I didn't ask for any of this. Neither did I." For a moment, his voice was completely human. "But I feel it. The bond. It's there. And it terrifies me because it means Sophia really is gone. Means I have to accept that and move forward. And I don't know how." Before Arya could respond, before she could process what he'd just admitted, a sound cut through the night. Heartbeats. Dozens of them, approaching fast. Kai had his sword drawn instantly. "We've got company." Arya ran to the window and looked out. Torches blazed in the darkness, carried by wolves in formation. Military precision. At their head, dressed in silver armour that gleamed in the moonlight, was Luna Celeste. And she was holding Elena. "No," Arya breathed. "No, no, no." The baby was quiet in Celeste's arms, eerily so, spelled probably, kept docile with magic while her grandmother used her as leverage. "Open the door," Celeste called out, her voice carrying, "or I'll burn the cottage down with all of you inside. Your choice." Kai looked at Arya. She looked at Damon, who was struggling to sit up, his wolf roaring at the scent of his daughter nearby. They had no choice. Kai opened the door. Celeste entered like a queen, her guards flanking her, and Marcus trailing behind, looking ill. The young prince, if he even was a prince, wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Coward and pawn, manipulated by his mother into a role he probably never wanted. "Well," Celeste said, surveying the cottage with distaste. "How domestic. The dying prince, his impossible mate, and the betrayed beta. Like something out of a tragic ballad." "Give me my daughter." Damon was on his feet somehow, swaying but standing. His voice was pure alpha command, even through the gold gleam of his eyes. "Your daughter?" Celeste smiled. "This hybrid abomination? I don't think so." She shifted Elena in her arms, and the baby stirred but didn't wake. "She's evidence of your betrayal, Damon. Proof that you mated below your station, consorted with witches, produced an heir that could never be accepted by the pack." "She's innocent," Arya said. "Whatever you're planning, leave her out of it." "Oh, but she's central to my plan." Celeste's eyes glittered. "You see, I've come to offer you a choice, a very simple one, really. Damon can surrender himself to me. He'll be taken to the capital, put on trial, and executed publicly for treason. In exchange, I'll let Elena live. She'll be raised in obscurity, her heritage hidden, but alive." "And if I refuse?" Damon asked. "Then I kill Elena right now, right here. And when you go feral, which will be any moment now, from the look of you, my guards will put you down like the rabid animal you're becoming. Either way, you die. The only question is whether your daughter dies with you." The cottage went silent, except for Damon's laboured breathing. "You're insane," Kai said. "The king will never allow this. He's awake now, aware of your crimes. The king is weak and confused, barely recovered from his illness. He can be managed." Celeste's smile widened. "And with Damon executed as a confessed traitor, there will be no question about the succession. Marcus will be crowned. I'll rule as Queen Regent until he comes of age. The kingdom will be mine." "The pack won't accept it," Arya said. "People aren't stupid. They'll see through your lies." "Will they? Or will they simply accept the story that makes the most sense?" Celeste began to pace, still holding Elena. Prince Damon, grief-stricken over his secret lover's death, went mad. He kidnapped a random baby, claimed it was his daughter, and tried to stage a coup against his own uncle. Tragic, heartbreaking, but clear. "You've thought of everything." Damon's voice was bitter. "I've had years to plan. Did you really think you could outsmart me? You're idealistic and naive, just like your father was." Celeste's expression hardened. "Theodore thought he could change the pact too, make it softer, kinder. I had to kill him for it, and now I have to kill you." The confession hung in the air. Kai's hand tightened on his sword hilt, but Celeste's guards shifted, ready to strike if he moved. "At least you're finally admitting it," Damon said. "Why not? You'll be dead soon anyway. All of you will be." Celeste looked at Arya. "Unless you want to save them. You could, you know. You have that power." "What are you talking about?" "You're a soul listener. You can hear truth, can sense lies." Celeste moved closer, and Arya fought the urge to step back. "Challenge me to a heart's trial, ancient law. 2 wolves fight, and the soul listener judges whose heart beats true, whose cause is just. If I win, you all die quietly. If you win, I confess everything before the pack." Arya's mind reeled. "A heart's trial? I've never heard of—" "Because it hasn't been invoked in 300 years, Kai said quietly. "It's old law, from before the pack systems were formalized. Any wolf could challenge any other, regardless of rank, and a soul listener would determine the rightful victor through combat and truth." "And if a soul listener issues the challenge," Arya asked, "then ancient law says the challenged party must accept, regardless of rank or power." Kai looked at her intently. "But Arya, you have no combat training. Celeste is Luna. She's been training to fight since she was a child. She'll kill you, maybe, but maybe not." Arya looked at Elena, still unconscious in Celeste's arms, looked at Damon, dying and desperate, looked at Kai, who'd sacrificed everything and gotten only betrayal in return. "If I don't challenge her, we all die anyway. At least this way we have a chance." "A chance?" Celeste laughed. "You'll last maybe 30 seconds against me." "Then you should have no problem accepting." Arya stepped forward, standing as tall as her Omega frame would allow. "I, Arya Blackwood, invoke the ancient right of heart's trial. I challenge you, Luna Celeste, to single combat. The soul listener, me, We'll judge whose heart beats true. If I win, you confess all your crimes before the assembled pack. If you win, I surrender my life and the lives of those I'm protecting." The words felt formal, ritualistic. She could feel the magic of old law activating, sealing the challenge. Celeste's smile widened. "I accept. The trial will take place in 2 days, at the next full moon. Before the entire pack as witness. Ancient law demands it be public. 2 days?" Damon pushed forward. "She'll be dead by then." "I'll be dead. We need—" "2 days is traditional." Celeste handed Elena to one of her guards, carefully, almost tenderly. For all her cruelty, she handled the baby like something precious. It gives the challenger time to prepare, to set her affairs in order, and it gives the pack time to gather. This will be a spectacle after all. An Omega challenging a Luna? Unheard of. Everyone will want to watch. She moved toward the door, her guards following. Marcus lingered for a moment, looking at Kai. "I'm sorry," the young prince whispered. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." "It's worth nothing," Kai said coldly. Marcus flinched and left. Celeste paused at the threshold. 2 days, little Omega. I suggest you spend them learning how to fight and praying to whatever gods might listen, because you're going to need divine intervention to survive what's coming. Then she was gone, and the cottage fell silent again. "You're going to die," Kai said flatly. "You just signed your own death warrant." "I signed all of our death warrants," Arya corrected. "But at least this way, we force her to face us publicly. Force the pack to witness whatever happens. She can't hide behind lies if everything happens in front of thousands of witnesses. She can still kill you." "Probably," Arya turned to Damon, who was staring at her with those terrible gold eyes. "But maybe, if I'm very lucky and very clever, I can hurt her enough before I die, that someone else can finish what we started." "You shouldn't have done that," Damon's voice broke. "Shouldn't have risked yourself for— For what? For you? For Elena? For the kingdom?" Arya laughed, high and slightly hysterical. "Too late. It's done. And honestly, I'm tired of being invisible, tired of being treated like I don't matter. If I'm going to die, I might as well die doing something that matters." She walked to the window, staring out at the moon. 2 days. 48 hours to learn how to fight, how to survive, how to win against impossible odds. Behind her, she heard Damon moving. Then his hand touched her shoulder, gentle despite the claws. "I'm sorry," he said, "for being so tangled up in grief that I couldn't see what was right in front of me, for not accepting the mate bond sooner, for—" His voice caught. "For letting you face this alone. I'm not alone." Arya turned to face him. "You're here. Kai's here. Even the king is trying to help, in his weakened state. I'm not alone. But I haven't been here. Not really. I've been hiding in memories of Sophia, using my grief as a shield against feeling anything new." His hand moved to her face, cupping her cheek. The gold in his eyes flickered, brown showing through more strongly than before. "I feel the bond, Arya. Have felt it since the moment you dug me out of that grave. And it terrifies me because you might lose again," she finished. "I know, you said. Not just that, because I'm starting to realize that what I feel for you isn't just the bond. It's real. It's mine. And if I accept it, if I let myself love you—" He stopped, struggling with words. "Then I have to admit that Sophia is really gone, that I'm choosing to live instead of just surviving. And I don't know if I'm strong enough for that." Arya's eyes burned, but still no tears came. How could she cry for a man who was finally opening up, but still holding back? How could she cry for a love that might never fully form? "You don't have to be strong enough right now," she said. "You just have to keep breathing. Stay human until we can cure you. And then, after, if there is an after, we'll figure out the rest. You're going to die in that trial. It wasn't a question." "Probably. Then I'm going to watch my mate die because I was too broken to accept her in time." Damon's laugh was bitter. The universe has a sense of humour. Maybe. Or maybe the universe is giving us a chance to fight for something real. Arya pressed her hand over his, holding it against her face. I don't need you to love me perfectly, Damon. I just need you to try, to want to. That's enough. It's not enough. But his thumb stroked her cheek, gentle despite the claws. You deserve everything. Deserve someone who's not shattered, someone who can love you without reservations. I deserve someone who's honest about his damage and fights anyway. Arya smiled, sad and small. That's you. Broken or not, that's you. The moment hung between them, fragile as glass. Then Damon leaned forward and kissed her. It was gentle and desperate, tasting of grief and hope, and impossible choices. The mate bond flared between them, recognizing, celebrating, mourning what they might never have time to build. When they pulled apart, Arya saw tears on Damon's face. Finally, Kai said from across the room, gods, the tension was killing me. Despite everything, Arya laughed. Then she looked at Damon's tears and hope sparked. Your tears? The antidote. Won't work, Damon said quietly. These are my tears, not yours. The magic requires the mate's tears freely given. But you're crying for me. That should count. It's not about who cries for whom. It's about the sole listener crying for her mate, your power, your gift, channeled through emotion into physical form. My tears won't save me. He wiped his face, smiling sadly. But at least I got to kiss you before the end. That's something. Kai cleared his throat. I hate to interrupt this moment, but we have 2 days to prepare Arya for a fight to the death against a trained warrior, Luna. Romance is lovely, but tactics are lovelier. Can we focus? He was right. They were out of time for tender moments. Arya squared her shoulders. Teach me. Everything you know about combat. I may not be able to beat her, but I can learn enough to make it interesting. You'll need more than interesting, Kai said. You'll need a miracle. Then we'll make one. Arya looked at Damon, then at Kai, then at the moon hanging heavy in the sky. We've come this far on impossible odds. What's one more impossibility? 2 days. 48 hours. 1 Omega against a Luna, fighting for truth in a kingdom built on lies. The odds were laughable, but Arya had stopped laughing. She'd started fighting instead, and sometimes that was enough. Outside the moon watched. Tomorrow it would wane, and then, in 2 days, it would be full again. The heart's trial would begin, and someone was going to die. Arya just had to make sure it wasn't her, not before she exposed every truth Celeste had buried. Not before she saved them all, or died trying. The cottage settled into tense preparation. Kai began demonstrating basic defensive stances. Damon, still fighting his transformation, offered what tactical advice he could between tremors, and Arya learned. She learned how to fall without breaking, how to strike without telegraphing, how to survive when survival seemed impossible. 2 days, 1 chance, everything or nothing. The moon kept rising, indifferent to the drama unfolding beneath its light, and in the palace, Luna Celeste smiled. Victory was so close, she could taste it. Chapter 8. 2 days passed like a fever dream. Kai drilled Arya relentlessly, teaching her to move, to dodge, to make herself a harder target. She'd never be strong enough to match Celeste blow for blow, but she could be quick, she could be smart. She could listen. Your gift is your advantage, Kai said on the morning of the trial, wrapping her hands in fighting leather. Celeste doesn't know the full extent of what you can do. She thinks you can only hear heartbeats. She doesn't know you can influence them. I've only done it once, Arya reminded him. When I killed that assassin, I don't even know how I did it. Then you'll figure it out again, under pressure, or you'll die. Kai's bluntness was almost comforting in its honesty. Either way, make it count. Damon had stabilized, barely. Without the antidote, he was still dying, still fighting the wolf consuming his humanity. But he'd managed to stay conscious, stay present. Every moment with him felt borrowed, stolen from an ending they couldn't prevent. "Don't die," he told her that morning. His eyes more brown than gold for the first time in days. "Please, I finally found you. Don't make me lose you immediately." "I'll try my best," she'd said, kissing him one last time. Now, standing in the arena at the heart of the capital, surrounded by thousands of wolves who'd gathered to watch, Arya wondered if her best would be enough. The arena was ancient, a circular stone structure where challenges had been fought for centuries. The last Hearts trial held here had been 300 years ago, according to pack historians who'd scrambled to research the ritual. The rules were simple and brutal. 2 wolves enter, 1 leaves. The sole listener judges truth through combat. If the sole listener herself was one of the combatants, she judged through her gift while fighting for her life. Arya stood in the center of the arena, wearing simple leather armor that Kai had found for her. Across from her, Celeste looked like a warrior queen. Silver armor polished to a mirror shine, a longsword in her hands, her hair braided back for battle. She looked like everything Arya wasn't. Powerful, trained, confident. The king sat in the royal box, still weak but present. Beside him, Elena slept in the arms of a trusted nursemaid, spelled to sleep through the violence. Daemon sat on the king's other side, held upright by sheer will, his eyes locked on Arya. Kai stood with the royal guard, his face carefully blank, and Marcus, stripped of his princely titles but not yet exiled, stood in the crowd, watching his mother with an expression Arya couldn't read. The high priest stepped forward, an ancient wolf with silver fur and milky eyes. He raised his hands, and the crowd quieted. "By ancient law and sacred right, we gather to witness the Heart's trial," he intoned. 2 hearts in conflict, 1 truth to be revealed. The sole listener will judge, through combat and gift, whose cause is just, whose heart beats true. He turned to Arya. "Challenger, state your accusation." Arya's voice carried across the arena stronger than she felt. "I accuse Luna Celeste of treason against the crown, of murder, of poisoning the Alpha King, of orchestrating the attempted murder of Prince Daemon, of killing Sophia, Daemon's mate, and attempting to kill their daughter, Princess Eleanor. I accuse her of conspiracy to place a false heir on the throne, and I challenge her to prove her innocence through trial by combat, judged by my gift as sole listener." The crowd murmured. Celeste smiled. "I accept the accusation and the challenge," she said smoothly, "and I will prove, through strength and truth, that all charges are false, that this Omega is a liar and a manipulator who has enchanted our prince and deceived our king." The high priest nodded. "Then let the trial begin. May truth prevail, may justice be served, and may the gods guide the sole listener's judgment." He stepped back. The arena fell silent. Celeste struck first. She moved like lightning, closing the distance between them in seconds. Her sword came down in an arc meant to cleave Arya in half. Arya threw herself sideways, barely dodging, feeling the wind of the blade's passage. The crowd gasped. Arya rolled to her feet, drawing the short sword Kai had given her. It felt awkward in her hands, too heavy, too foreign. She'd never killed anyone with a blade. Never even held one before 2 days ago. Celeste came again, a flurry of strikes that drove Arya backward. She blocked clumsily, desperately, her arms already aching from the impact. Each blow sent shockwaves through her bones. "You can't win," Celeste said conversationally, pressing the attack. "You're Omega, weak, pathetic. You should have stayed in your garden where you belonged." Arya didn't waste breath responding. She focused instead on Celeste's heartbeat, strong, steady, confident, the rhythm of someone who'd already won in her mind. But beneath the confidence, Arya heard something else, a slight irregularity, a skip that came whenever Celeste mentioned Damon. Guilt? Fear? Something. Arya used it. She feinted left, and when Celeste moved to counter, Arya went right, scoring a shallow cut across the Luna's arm. First blood. The crowd roared. Celeste's eyes widened, then narrowed. Lucky. Maybe. Arya circled, trying to catch her breath. Or maybe I'm better than you thought. They clashed again, steel on steel, and Arya felt her gift expanding. She could hear everything now. The crowd's collective heartbeat, the king's weakened pulse, Damon's failing rhythm, Elena's steady infant flutter, and beneath it all, Celeste's heart, beating its complicated truths. You killed Theodore, Arya said, blocking a strike. Your own mate, poisoned him because he wouldn't let you control him. Celeste's heartbeat stuttered, just for a second. Confirmation. Lies, Celeste snarled, but her next attack was more aggressive, less controlled. You manipulated the king for years, kept him weak so you could rule through him. Arya dodged, using her smaller size to her advantage. You murdered Sophia because she made Damon happy, made him strong, and you couldn't control the strong prince. Another skip in Celeste's rhythm, another truth confirmed. The crowd was listening now, hearing the accusations, seeing Celeste's reactions. You're a sole listener, someone shouted. Can you hear if she's lying? Yes, Arya called back, still fighting, still moving. And she's not. Everything I'm saying, her heart confirms it. She's manipulating you, Celeste swung wildly, and Arya barely blocked it, using her gift to make you believe lies. Then let me prove it. Arya took a risk, a terrible one. She dropped her sword. The crowd gasped. Celeste froze, confused. I don't need a weapon, Arya said. My gift is my weapon, and I'll prove it right now. She reached out with her gift, that power she'd used once before. When the assassin had threatened Elena, she found Celeste's heartbeat and grabbed it. Not to stop it, not to kill, but to control it, to force it to beat in perfect truth. Celeste's eyes went wide. She tried to raise her sword, but Arya's grip on her heart tightened, and the Luna gasped, dropping to her knees. Speak, Arya commanded, her voice echoing with power she didn't know she possessed. Speak truth. Let your heart beat it out for all to hear. And Celeste's mouth opened, words tumbling out against her will. I killed Theodore, poisoned him. He wanted to change the pack laws, wanted to give power to the lower ranks. I couldn't allow it. So I killed him and married his brother, weak, controllable. The crowd erupted. The king stood, horror on his face. I've been poisoning you for years, Celeste continued, the words ripping from her throat, keeping you weak, keeping you manageable. You were never sick. It was me, always me. And Sophia? Damon's voice cut through the chaos. Tell them about Sophia. Celeste's face twisted with rage and anguish, fighting the compulsion, but her heart beat truth and her mouth followed. I killed her, hired assassins to make it look like childbed fever. She was making you strong, making you independent. I couldn't have that. And the baby, that hybrid abomination. I wanted her dead too. Would have killed her myself if she hadn't been hidden so well. And Marcus? The king's voice was terrible in its quiet fury. Tell us about my son. Not your son, never your son. Celeste was crying now, tears of rage streaming down her face. He's Mordane's, the Bloodclaw Alpha, my lover, my conspiracy. We planned it for years. To plant his son on your throne, to take Blood Moon from within. Marcus was supposed to be the Trojan horse, the king who would hand your kingdom to your enemies. The silence that fell was deafening. Then the crowd exploded. Wolves howling in rage and betrayal, guards moving forward to seize Celeste, the king collapsing back into his throne, aged another decade by the revelations. Arya released her grip on Celeste's heart, and the Luna crumpled, gasping. Arya retrieved her sword, holding it steady despite her shaking hands. I have judged, she said formally, and found her heart beat false. She is guilty of all charges. The trial is complete. The high priest moved forward, his expression grave. The sole listener has judged. The heart's trial is concluded. Luna Celeste, you are found guilty of treason, murder, and conspiracy against the crown. Your rank is stripped, your title revoked, and you are sentenced to exile, the king said, his voice breaking. Not death. I cannot. He stopped, struggling with emotion. She was my brother's mate once. For his memory, if nothing else, I grant her life. But she will be exiled beyond our borders, never to return. And if she sets foot in Blood Moon territory again, she will be executed on sight. Celeste laughed, bitter and broken. Exile? You think that's mercy? You're condemning me to slow death among rogues and enemies? I'm giving you what you never gave anyone else, the king said. A chance. What you do with it is between you and the gods. Guards dragged Celeste away, still laughing, still defiant even in defeat. The crowd was chaos. Some cheering, some shouting questions, some simply stunned. Marcus stood frozen, his entire identity shattered. The young man who'd thought he was a prince had just learned he was a planted spy, a weapon forged by his mother's ambition. Arya swayed, exhausted and hurting. She'd taken several hits during the fight. Her ribs were bruised, her arm bleeding from a deep cut. But she was alive. She'd won. Kai was beside her instantly, supporting her. You did it. Gods above, you actually did it. Is it over? She asked. Is it really over? The trial is. But look. He turned her toward the royal box. Daemon had collapsed. His body was convulsing, the transformation accelerating. They were out of time. The trial had taken too long. The cure had never come. And now... No. Arya pulled away from Kai and ran to the royal box, climbing the stairs with her last reserves of strength. She reached Daemon just as Elena woke, crying. The baby's cry cut through the noise, and suddenly Arya remembered. The antidote. Tears of a true mate, freely given. I didn't cry, she gasped, kneeling beside Daemon. During the trial, I was too focused. I didn't... You did. Elena's voice was clear despite her tears. The nursemaid holding her looked shocked. Babies didn't speak in full sentences, but Elena did. You cried, Mama, when grandmother's sword cut your arm, when you thought you might die and never see Papa again. You cried, and I caught them. She held up a tiny vial, no bigger than her thumb. Inside, Arya saw the gleam of liquid. Her tears, given freely during the fight when she'd thought of Daemon and everything they'd lose. Sacrifice, Elena said. The magic required tears given in sacrifice, not asked for. You gave them when you fought for us, when you almost died for truth. Kai grabbed the vial and the prepared wolfsbane root. He mixed them quickly, the potion glowing faintly in the moonlight. Then he tipped it into Daemon's mouth, forcing him to swallow. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Daemon screamed. His body arched, convulsing, the wolf and the man fighting for dominance one last time. Black veins spread across his skin, the poison leaving his body. His eyes flickered between gold and brown, human and animal, life and death. Arya grabbed his hand, holding tight. Stay with me. Come back. Please, Daemon, come back. She pressed her ear to his chest, listening to his heartbeat. It was chaos, skipping, racing, stumbling. But beneath the chaos, she heard the moment it stabilized, the moment the poison left, the moment the man won. Daemon's eyes opened, brown, completely brown. Arya, he breathed. She was crying again. Real tears this time, not conjured by pain, but by relief so profound it hurt. You're alive. You're human. You're... yours. He pulled her down, kissing her fiercely. I'm yours if you'll have me, broken pieces and all. I'll have you. She laughed through tears. Broken pieces are my specialty. The crowd's chaos had shifted to celebration. The prince was alive. The traitor was exposed. Justice had been served. The king stood, leaning heavily on his throne but standing. "Let it be known," he announced, his voice carrying across the arena, "that Princess Elena, daughter of Prince Damon, is hereby recognized as my heir, and that Arya Blackwood, sole listener and proven warrior, is named as the princess's guardian and future Luna of Blood Moon." The crowd roared approval. "Furthermore," the king continued, "Prince Damon is named Crown Prince Regent to rule in my stead until Elena comes of age, and his mate bond with Arya Blackwood is formally recognized and blessed." Damon pulled Arya to her feet, and they stood together, the prince and the Omega, the impossible mates who'd saved a kingdom. 3 months later, at Damon's coronation as Crown Prince Regent, Arya stood beside him wearing silver and moonlight. Elena, now 9 months old, but with the bearing of a much older child, watched from the king's lap. The kingdom had healed slowly. Marcus had been exiled alongside his mother, choosing to leave rather than face the constant reminder of what he'd been. Some said he'd gone north, to find Mordain and confront his true father. Others said he'd simply disappeared. Celeste was gone, vanished into the unclaimed territories. Rumours surfaced occasionally, a silver-haired woman leading a rogue pack, planning revenge. But they were only rumours. For now, there was peace. As the high priest placed the regent's crown on Damon's head, Arya pressed her ear to his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Strong, steady, true. "What do you hear?" Damon whispered. "Our future," she said. "I hear our future." And she did. She heard Eleanor's heartbeat, rapid with youth and power. Heard the king's, growing stronger every day. Heard Kai's, steady and loyal, standing guard even now. And she heard her own heart, finally beating in sync with her mates. 2 hearts, 1 truth, 1 love. The coronation continued, but Arya stayed there, listening, counting each precious beat. They'd earned this peace, this love, this impossible happy ending, and she would treasure every heartbeat of it. Epilogue. In the shadows at the edge of the arena, a woman watched. She had dark hair like Elena's, and kind eyes, and a smile that held secrets. She wore a travelling cloak that hid her features, and no one looked at her twice. No one ever did. That was the gift of a good glamour spell. Sophia watched her daughter sleep in the king's arms, watched Damon accept his crown, watched Arya shine like the Luna she'd always been meant to be. She hadn't died in that childbirth bed. That had been an illusion, a desperate gamble to protect Elena from Celeste's reach. Witch blood had its advantages. Faking death was surprisingly simple when you knew the right spells. She'd orchestrated everything from the shadows. The anonymous note that brought Kai to the crypt. The dreams that guided Elena to Sister Margot. The whispers that kept Marcus's loyalty fractured just enough to give them time. She'd even been there, invisible, during the heart's trial. Had whispered in the wind, giving Arya strength when the Omega's courage had wavered. "Finish it," she'd said, and Arya had. Now, watching Damon with his new mate, Sophia felt the last threads of their old bond dissolve. They'd loved each other, she and Damon, but she'd always known he wasn't her fated mate, just as he'd always known, somewhere deep down, that she wasn't his. They'd been right for each other at the right time, and that was enough. Arya was his true match. Sophia had known it from the moment she'd sensed the Omega's gift, months before Elena's birth. A sole listener and an alpha prince. Together, they'd change everything. Together, they'd keep Elena safe. "Goodbye, my love," Sophia whispered, though Damon couldn't hear her. "Take care of our daughter, take care of your heart, and be happy." She turned and walked away, disappearing into the mist that always seemed to gather at the edges of things. There were other kingdoms to explore, other adventures to find, other ways to protect her daughter from the shadows. Elena would be safe now, loved by a father who'd fight for her and a mother figure who'd already proven she'd die for her. That was all Sophia had ever wanted. As she vanished into the forest, a single tear rolled down her cheek, not of sadness, but of gratitude. Her daughter's heartbeat echoed in her witch blood, strong and steady and safe. And in the arena behind her, Arya pressed her ear to Damon's chest and smiled, listening, always listening, to the truth that heartbeats told, to the future they'd all fought for, to love, hard-won and impossible and real. The end. In the years that followed, Princess Elena would grow into a queen unlike any the wolf packs had ever seen. Part wolf, part witch, wholly herself. And beside her, always, would be her parents. Damon, who'd learned that loving again didn't diminish the love that came before, and Arya, who'd learned that being Omega didn't mean being powerless. They would face other challenges, other threats, but they would face them together, listening to the truth that hearts beat out in the quiet moments between battles. And somewhere in the mist, a mother would watch and smile, knowing her sacrifice had given them all the greatest gift, a chance to choose their own endings, a chance to write their own stories, a chance to live. Thank you for listening to this story. Like, share and subscribe for more.